directly to the area straight down into that ditch. There he counted the Germans. He was astounded to see that they were firing a machine gun in that direction for no apparent reason. For all Dick Winters knew, there was nobody there. But even so, he thought, well, okay, we need to take care of them. He crawled back, got his men, gave them all a German to shoot, and from the position down there in the ditch, they opened fire and wiped out the machine gun. They got safely back towards that ditch, and that's when things started to really slow down. In Band of Brothers, this whole action is maybe 20-25 minutes. In real life, this action takes hours and hours and hours. The infantry patrol comes back, sends out, comes back, then they move out. Then they wait for reinforcements, because Dick Winters is in a fix. He knows there are more Germans here. He just took out a machine gun, but there's only like 15 men at this point here. So he needs to get more men in order to move or do anything. And as they wait behind that culvert, that's when a rifle grenade is fired from the area of the culvert where we are standing now, and that is an unfortunate hit on Dukeman, Private Sergeant, can't remember, on Dukeman, and he gets a piece of shrapnel in his heart and he dies instantly. He slumps over, he doesn't really even make a sound anymore, he just slumps over, falls, dies. And but that's the only casualty, only man killed that Easy Company had during this battle. Well, while all that's happening, Dick Winters is waiting for reinforcements to come up. And while he moves slightly forward of the ditch, or he moves basically into the field without any cover, and there he starts to think about their position. But what he knows is that there are Germans on the dike. He also knows that these Germans are able to outflank him on the other side of the dike without him ever knowing. They could all stand on the dike and fire down on this little group. So his tactical options are very slim. He could either withdraw, but that's not Dick Winters. He's not going to withdraw. He wants to do something else. Then he comes up with this plan. The only thing we can do is attack. So he has two machine guns. One fires along this ditch, one fires along the other ditch. And in between, he has 3 squads of men that are running towards where we are now. Band of Brothers, he throws purple smoke, and then when the smoke's visible, that's when they start the attack. That, of course, is bullshit. Why on earth would you throw a purple smoke grenade that everybody and their mother can see for quite a long way around, and only then start moving? It is a artistic license, because what really happened was that Dick Winters, who was an athlete, he's always been very good at sports, he's been very quick on his feet. He just ran so much faster than everybody else that by the time he got here, it felt like it took hours for the rest to form up to follow him here on the dike. So that might be difficult to film. Then it would look very weird if this one man runs twice as fast as all the others. So they came up with this purple smoke thing. And but what actually happened, that's what Dick Winters writes in his memoirs. I just was so quickly, I've never run any faster. And the platoon on the left, led by a Lieutenant Peacock, they ran into some barbed wire, so they were held up, and the other platoon wasn't as quick as him as well. So he ended up here on the dike alone. And that is where he saw the Germans. And the Germans were in the field behind you. And the first thing he did was throw a grenade. And when he threw it and then dove for cover, he thought, oh, he didn't swear. But he had taped, for security reasons, he taped around his hand grenade so it couldn't go off by mistake. So he tried to lift the handle so the grenade was primed and then throw it, but he just threw it. And then the German threw a grenade as well, and then Dick thought, well, this is nice because I threw a grenade that'll never go off, and now I'm toast. Luck was on Dick Winters' side, but the other grenade didn't go off as well. Well, because Dick Winters knew that there was no way his grenade was going to go off, he jumped up and started shooting. He emptied a clip Then he got down on his knees, put in another clip, emptied it, and it's then that the rest of the men started to arrive, and they all opened fire on these maybe 100 or 200 Germans who were out in the open. They were very slow. They knew something must have been wrong when their machine gun was taken out, but they still let themselves be surprised by a small group of American infantrymen carrying nothing but machine guns and rifles. They opened up on the Germans, and the Germans started to move in that direction in blind panic. And it's then that Winters called in artillery support, which also opened up on the Germans here. And when they thought, well, this is it, we've got the Germans on the run, another company of Germans decides to enter this retreat, which is now a route. They cross the dike and also start moving that way, fleeing as fast as they can from the American fire and the artillery. Dick Winters, being an aggressive leader, still not happy. He now wants to cut them off at the river where the ferry crossing was. So he decides to gather some more reinforcements and then move by fire and maneuver, move towards the river's edge. So there's one group of soldiers firing, the other group is going forward undercover, and they leapfrog over each other until they get to the river. This again takes time, and when they get to the river they notice that the Germans that were fleeing in a route that way have now since recovered their for the first time and recovered their organization and are starting to move in force on these men that are now here at the former factory buildings. It's then that another leadership quality of Dick Winters shows itself, and that's knowing when he has done enough. At Breakwell Manor, after they got the guns, he decides we've done enough, there's nothing more to do, we're not here to kill Germans, we're here to get a battalion of British to swim with guns, and that's enough. And that's when he pulls his men back. He basically does the same thing here. He's been fighting them for hours, the Germans, from the ditch, made the charge, and then over on there, and that's why he decides we've done enough, there's nothing we can achieve with the little band of soldiers we have here, and by fire and maneuver they pull back here. Unfortunately, the Germans have this area by now under mortar and artillery fire. And when they get here in a quick succession, rounds come in, and more than 14 Americans are wounded in just a single barrage of artillery. One of the men that's been wounded is Webster, and he is asked to go back to the aid station by himself. He's got a shrapnel in his leg, and he won't join the company until Hagenau. And this is the Battle of the Bulge. Another one of the walking wounded was Leadgott, and Leadgott was a soldier with an attitude. You've seen it in the episode where he was told by Winters to drop his ammo and bring those prisoners back, because Leadgott was known to maybe not think that the Geneva Convention would be that important. Back after they took this meeting, they all moved back, and weren't really in the thick of fighting out position. They had some control activity, but most of the time they were not in a massive firefight. Except another interesting thing, Operation Pegasus. The British at Arnhem were issued, and September 25th they pulled back across the river, but not everybody pulled back. There were hundreds of British soldiers who were trapped behind enemy lines. There were men who had escaped from hospital. There were one man walked out in broad daylight and then was hidden by Dutch underground. There were others who escaped from prison. There were others who never even were captured, but from the moment the rest of the division left, they were taken care of by the Dutch underground. And in the area behind me, and then up to 50 kilometers from the river, there were British soldiers waiting to escape. They were all living Dutch underground with Dutch families that took care of this prisoner, and it was very dangerous for these Dutch because if they were discovered, they'd be sent to a concentration camp post-haste. So Operation Pegasus was initiated. It was a MI9 operation, so British intelligence first set up this operation, but instrumental in getting it all moving was Colonel Dobie. And Colonel Dobie was a commanding officer, and he swam the river and thought he would cross into the American lines. Unfortunately,